Giggle. It's time to play, mister. This is the story of a man named Gosei Green 1290. Green is what you call a geek, a YouTuber, and a reviewer of things he finds much joy in. One day, Green walked into his room on a quiet afternoon. With time on his hands still, he figured he would film his next review. His reviews, while prolonged, are entertaining to say the least, with jokes and opinions sprinkled throughout the demos and visuals. His last review was a video of massive proportions, with a runtime of almost 40 minutes, and to continue on, he was set to review the continuation of the next season's toy line.
Hey everyone, GozyGreen90 here, back with another video, and today I figured why not give a small quickie review to the changer that was featured in the 46th Super Sentai season, since it technically borrowed material from Zenkai-Oh. Today we're going to be taking a look at the DX Dawn Blaster and the few Avataro gears that I currently own for that toy line. But first, a bit of history. Rumors were going around at the time that the next season after Zenkai-Oh would be storybook themed with the motif of the story Dawn Momotaro, with the other Rangers being based around the story. You got the typical Momotaro being the Red Ranger role, but you also had an Oni, Monkey, Pheasant, and Dog Rangers respectively. As more info was leaked, it was also revealed that Zenkaiser and Juran would make appearances in the show proper, with Zenkaiser being in a new suit labeled Zenkaiser Black. And speculation that it was going to be a sequel series to Zenkaiser in some way, shape, or form. Then we found out who was writing it. Toshiki Inoue, the man, the myth, the legend. For the first time, he would write and direct his own Sentai season after a good 31-year absence from the brand. Everyone was excited. Except for me. Because if you watched my channel before, you know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Zenkai-Oh when it wrapped up. And that was mostly for the writing and the fact that the show couldn't really lock in after the first major arc. So I was skeptical for this going in. But to my surprise, I enjoyed it. Very much so. It was comical, but it had a lot of great action scenes and drama. And instead of being silly and trying to be serious and then silly again, it was silly throughout the entire series. But the madness and comedy felt natural and not forced, and it didn't shove legacy and homages in your face about it. And I felt like it was one of the biggest strengths of this series, and it is one of my favorite era Sentai seasons. But how does this translate to the toys? Well, the DX Dawn Blaster was released in March of 2023, and much like last year, you could get it in the standard or in the roleplay set with core 5 members with the Dawn Bro buckle included. However, though, included with the mainline Dawn Blaster, you get 2 Avataro gears, Dawn Momotaro and Zenkaiser. The Avataro gears themselves looking less like machine gears and more like throwing stars, in all honesty. And instead of it being a picture of the Red Ranger's side profile with the team's number off to the side, instead we have a front-face profile of the Red Ranger of the season that they're based on, with a colored background of the Ranger's choice and a teal background for the legendary, Senpaiger gears. In the show, apparently, the Avataro gears are an evolution of the Sentai gears, which is left unexplained by the show's own lore, but I'm perfectly fine accepting that reality because unlike Zenkai-Oh, where there's only one set of all 45, there's multiple copies of the same gear. And unlike last season where they can only summon powers and weapons, the teams themselves can turn into past Rangers. But the caveat with this is that they can only turn into their past colors. So essentially any Ranger team that had red, blue, yellow, pink, and black, that's what they were only limited to. Which is a nice way of doing things that isn't fully stealing from Gokaiger. However, the only downside to this is that the Avataro gears are the exact same thing as the Sentai gears from last year. Same teeth and pin combinations and everything. The only thing that's new per se are about 30 or so sounds to the Dawn Blaster exclusively. The backs of the gears also have a connector peg as well, which is compatible with one of the mechas for this year, but this isn't the review to that. Getting back on track, the Dawn Blaster itself, well, I'm sorry if this comes off as rude, but this design is not very good. It looks like a water pistol more than a Sentai changer. It looks like a Nerf blaster version of a Morpher than a Sentai changer. It looks like one of those bootleg... You know what, you get the point. The fact is, this thing is an eyesore. The bright red and yellow contrast does not work for this thing. I will admit, the sunglasses motif on the top of the gun does work pretty well, as well as the neon yellow and pink on the shades, but I feel like the red and yellow should have been neon colored instead of mustard and ketchup. I will say this though, the scratch disc on the front being a large version of the Avataro gear is a nice touch, and the gold chrome finish adds to the aesthetic of it. Overall, it's a very mixed bag changer design wise, but functionality wise, well, like I mentioned earlier, it's the same as last year's changer, so let's turn it on and celebrate the festival way. Now, the core team has a lot going on for it than the usual team standby, but it doesn't stop here, because like last year, not only did we have dedicated Candy Toy and Gashapon sets, we also had DX sets for not only the core Rangers, but also the Senpaijers and the Alter gears, which we'll get into soon. But for now, if you have the Senpaijer gears, you get very unique sounds for Gokaiger to Zenkaiger. Now this is how you do turning into past Senshi. However, though, it's only limited to Gokaiger to Don Brothers, because if you use any other regular Senpaiger gear, Avataro, or the regular, you get the following. However, though, there is an exclusive sound when you use any of the other Zenkaiger gears. So, for example, here's my son, Zenkai-Gaon's gear. So that adds some level of uniqueness. And of course, here is the gear used in the Zenkaiju gear. I just simply unscrewed it, so here's the secret sound. I believe that they used this sound for the exclusive gears. I believe the magazine pack-ins, and I also believe actually I think just the magazine pack-ins for this exclusive gear pin combination. And it's kind of upsetting not to hear the change of phrases for some of the ones before Gokaiger, but I can honestly forgive it because you already put 12 past change sounds into this thing. However, though, there are some unique sounds added into this thing that the gear tellinger didn't include before. And to add one more set of unique sounds and changes, the Ultra Gears are probably the first time in a long time that you get a mecha mode that isn't the typical giant robot. Were these sounds needed? I mean, probably not, because it was rarely used in the show, but it was still a welcomed addition. Okay, this will be the last time there's going to be any unscripted mentions in this video, so to speak. But essentially, as you can see here, I have two duplicates of the Q Ranger Avataro gear. The reason why I have two duplicates of the Q Ranger Avatar alter gear, is because this isn't the standard alter gear. And you'll see why in just a moment. Yeah, for some baffling reason, when Bandai was making this gear exclusive to one of the Candy Toy sets, they somehow incorporated... Here, let me get the camera to focus. They somehow incorporated the DX gear pin combination 056, which is ironically also the standard pin combination for the regular Q Ranger gear. So I think this is the only instance in any toy line, honestly, where we have at least, I believe, two of the exact same gear that gives the exact same pin combination, because this came out in one of the DX Sentai gear sets, and this pin combination is 90, whereas this one shares the exact same pin as the standard DX regular release. It's a very odd commodity, and honestly, I'm surprised that I have this in my collection as it stands. So, yeah, that's something that you learned today. Now, there was one more style of Avataro gear that was made for the toy line itself, but like I said earlier, it corresponds to the mecha for this year, and this isn't the video for that. But with all that being said, while it is kind of hard to look at, it's not horrible by any means. If anything, it's a worthy successor changer, because it does the bare minimum and so much more. So if you can find a Dawn Blaster and a few gears, or have all the Sentai gears from last year, then I'd say go for it. It's an honest steal. And with all that being said, this goes Green1290 signing out, and I'll see you guys next time.
However, little did this reviewer know that it wouldn't be so easy to do the same routine every review, because tedium and repetition can drive any one person mad. One day, Green walked into his room on a quiet afternoon. With time on his hands still, he figured he would film his next review. His reviews, while prolonged, are entertaining to say the least, with jokes and opinions sprinkled throughout the demos and visuals. His last review was a video of massive proportions, with a runtime of almost 40 minutes, and to continue on, he was set to review the continuation of the next season's toy line.
Hey everyone, Go Say Green1290 here, back with another video, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. You see, in my Zenkai-Oh video, I sort of left out one little thing, and I honestly felt like I should have added it when I had the chance, so consider this an extra quickie review for the week. Because today we're going to be taking a look at the DX Dawn Zenkai-Oh from Zenkai-Oh episode 42, and the first half of the sequel series,暴太郎戦隊 Dawn Brothers. But first, a bit of history. Rumors were going around at the time that the next season after Zenkai-Oh would be storybook themed, with the motif of the story Dawn Momotaro, with the other Rangers being based around the story. You got the typical Momotaro being the Red Ranger role, but you also had an Oni, Monkey, Pheasant, and Dog Rangers respectively. As more info was leaked, it was also revealed that Zenkaiser and Juran would make appearances in the show proper, with Zenkaiser being in a new suit labeled Zenkaiser Black. Speculation that it was going to be a sequel series to Zenkaiser in some way, shape, or form. Then we found out who was writing it. Toshiki Inoue, the man, the myth, the legend. For the first time, he would write and direct his own Sentai season after a good 31-year absence from the brand. Everyone was excited. Except for me. Because if you watched my channel before, you know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Zenkai-Oh when it wrapped up. And that was mostly for the writing and the fact that the show couldn't really lock in after the first major arc. So I was skeptical for this going in. But as a sort of teaser, Dawn Momotaro actually made a cameo in Zenkai-Oh as a sort of hype up for the next season. And to their credit, it worked, because because I was thoroughly impressed by Don Momotaro and his action and the suit, and how he stole the show even if it was just for a cameo. And to add to the awesomeness, a new combination was debuted in the episode that he appeared in, Don Zenkai-Oh, combining both Juran and Momotaro's Zenyaridon to create this beast of a mecha combination. And yeah, this thing is big, bad, and not a Beetle War. But before we can talk about the mecha mode itself, let's talk about the separate components first. Starting up with the first half of the combo with Zenkai Juran in Kikai mode. For first, the mecha for Zenkaiger were triple changers, having the ability to turn into the main figure, an alt mode, and a Zenkai-Oh mode. In the main Juran mode, it's pretty much standard Megazord articulation, 360 on the arms, 360 on the head, and no leg movement. However, the transformation is where it's at. Here we have Kikai Henkei Juran Tirano, a red T-Rex form, and while it isn't exactly the best one to articulate, it makes up for it in size and style. And its parts forming is pretty good. However, I don't have Gaon as I bought the set with both Juran and Zenyaridon at the time, so there's no other combinations I can really show with this one. But just so you know, I like this, and that's all that really matters. Now the Zenyaridon on the other hand, I enjoy this just a bit more. It's a giant motorcycle with motif of a bird. I mean, come on, how can you not like this? This is so cool. Oh wait, what's that? You think it doesn't really match up with Juran? Well, bam! Here's the Yudo Don Momotaro figure. And as you can see, it scales pretty well with this thing. Sure, this thing was marketed for the Change Heroes line, but who says that this can't be here? Anyways, this thing just reminds me of an early 2000s Transformer, like Armada Sideways or Energon RC if they had a bird motif, and including a sort of pseudo-Avataro gear with the Sentai gear phase of Don Momotaro with the 46 off to the side. Speaking of which, if you use this with the Gear Tillinger, you get the extra, or in this case, the new hero sound, but it does have a unique sound in the Dawn Blaster itself. And speaking of the Dawn Blaster itself, in DX Avataro Gear Set 2, you get the Dawn Zenkai-Oh gear. And the fact that this combination has an official gear to its name is really neat. As a combined robot, like I said before, it's a big boy, with quite a few features included, like a windscreen shield, a laser sword attachment, but it also has enough uniqueness to it that it stands out amongst the other Zenkai-Oh combinations. However, the bulkiness is also a weakness to its design. Because one side is skinny, the other side's wide and obtuse. On top of that, not all the parts for Juran are utilized in the combination. Sure, you could technically still store the shield on the side here where it's supposed to be and not have any issues, but the sword itself for the Juran combination is in an awkward spot now. On top of that, if you're not careful, you could accidentally cave in the Juran legs and cause it to topple over. On top of that, the Juran side is pretty much limited in articulation because of the windscreen shield. You could remove it, but it shouldn't have to be an issue. And sure, you could make the argument that you're not supposed to do all this stuff, but it should have been thought of. However, the complaints are honestly outweighed by the style of the complete piece. Also, for those who are wondering, the Dawn Zenkai-Oh gear can be used in the Gear Tillinger, but it just triggers the Zenkai Gatai sound. So I guess there's not really much you can really do with that. But overall, while it is a bit of a mess and was only on screen for about 5 episodes between Zenkaiger and Dawn Brothers, I do have a soft spot for this robot, even if it didn't have a physical suit to go off of. But with all that being said, if you want one, I'd recommend you pick it up, because it's quite the piece to collect. I've only had a place to store it, but that's life of a collector, I guess. But with all that being said, this is GhostGreen1290 signing out. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.
Review and review he would. However, there was always something that always plagued his mind. Why keep going? Reviews are all one and the same. Same opinions, differing opinions. It all blurs. No one really has a voice that stands out, even if his opinion differs. It's like speaking into the void. A void that demands attentions no matter if it's good or bad. It was just a repeating cycle. No matter how many times he resets. One day, Green walked into his room on a quiet afternoon. With time on his hands still, he figured he would film his next review. His reviews, while prolonged, are entertaining to say the least, with jokes and opinions sprinkled throughout the demos and visuals. His last review was a video of massive proportions, with a runtime of almost 40 minutes, and to continue on, he was set to review the continuation of the next season's toy line.
Do you guys ever get the feeling of deja vu? Or something along that line? The DX Ninjark Sword was the first P Bandai exclusive changer for the Don Brothers range way back in 2022. This thing being a repaint of the DX Zonglass Sword that was released in the roleplay range or the prior year. Now you're probably wondering, why am I looking at something like this first and not anything else from the Don Brothers toy line first? Well, the answer is fairly simple. You see...
Any luck with that book yet, Nijigon?
Not yet, but I'm looking, Gon.
Well, hurry!
The sword itself is cast in this nice pink plastic with black gloss painted onto the handle and with purple plastic and chrome light blue for the spinning disc, the symbol, and the sharp teeth edges of the sword itself, with neon printing on the front of the sword much like the Dawn Blaster and the Zonglass Sword itself, but with inverted colors compared to the original. In the show, the Ninjark Sword, or in this case Murasame's creation was requested by the higher council of the Noto trio to fight against the Jutsu. However, Murasame developed his own sense of consciousness and went off on his own, only following the voice in his head labeled Mother. And for his 18-episode run and his appearance in the crossover movie, it's definitely a good time because he's always in action. But personally, I liked Murasame because, to me, he was a relatable character with struggles we see on screen that I could personally relate to. Wanting to find purpose, what can life really bring? All these moments I found kinship in. And it's honestly a shame that they sort of forgot about him halfway through and shoved him in the last few episodes because they needed everyone in the roll call. But enough about that rant, let's turn it on.
Ninjark Sword!
And get right down to it. So as you can see, as a basic sword, you get the typical slashy sounds, but for the main functions, all you gotta do is give it a spin. It honestly didn't need to include an avatar change sound because he only did it once throughout the entirety of the show, but it's a welcomed addition as per the norm. Now, for those who don't know or just completely forgot about it, there was actually a change between this thing's announcement and its release. Because when this toy was being teased at the time, there was a different version of the fourth spin attack sound, which was the following.
Everybody!
The reason why this was changed was due to sensitivity and the fact that the literal toy was saying to kill. Granted, it was kiru, meaning cut, but the general point that came across was kill, so it was changed right before its release. Which I find kind of ironic, to be honest with you, considering the fact that this is our evil ranger for the series, but they didn't want to go that level of evil. But I digress. Getting back on track, much like the Girto Zinger the year prior, it has its own set of voice phrases from Ami Murase and Makimonoto.
目覚めなさい、村雨。村雨。時が来ました。行きなさい、村雨。はい、マザー。マザー。少し疲れました。眠りなさい、村雨。よく頑張りましたね。私の可愛い子。戦いの時ですね、マザー。その通りです、村雨。僕は、村雨は何のために生まれてきたんでしょう。さあ、戦いなさい、村雨。はい、マザー。アバターチェンジです、村雨。はい、マザー。アバターチェンジ。
So functionality-wise, it's pretty much the same as the other changes in the line. The only thing that's really lacking it, though, in my honest opinion, is the compatibility with the Don Blaster. Oh. Yeah, in a strange move, the Ninjark Sword comes with 3 Avataro gears based on 3 Shark Rangers from Sentai's history. Volshark from Sun Vulcan, Gao Blue from Gao Ranger, and Juo Shark from Juoger. And yep, that's it. That's all the Shark Rangers from the 50-long history of this franchise. Nope, not a particular blue that had water-based techniques and a shark motif. I mean, it's not like he was an angel, and they didn't want to classify angels with a Dark Ranger. Nope, not at all. No sirree, Bob! So having these gears unlock shark-based attack sounds and this thing for finishers is okay, I guess. Granted, we didn't really see it in the show, but this is an inclusion I just find interesting, to say the least. But again, I'm still butthurt at the fact that Gosei Blue was pretty much excluded from this, even though that he is a shark Bandai. But that's not all the secret finishers you can unlock that weren't exactly included in the instructions or the promo material. While these were something that they didn't really need to include, it is a
Neat.
thing that they added it to make this thing stand out than the other sword in the toy line. Though I am curious, what happens if you do make an attempt to scan a Sentai gear that's not exactly one of the core 3 that were included in the box? Well, this is my excuse to test Goseiger, I guess.
Drop your hands!
Okay, I found a spell.
Will it work?
Hell? But it requires us to sacrifice a goat gon.
Keep looking.
Wait, Gamon and Nijigon? But that's not possible. They're standing over there.
Even though he knew the dangers of being a reviewer, Green somehow always braved the storm, despite the fact it would risk his own life in the process.
Who is speaking right now?
Unaware that even though he saved the world at least twice, he still somehow finds time to review toys. A strange habit, but a habit nonetheless. And habits can also lead to hallucinations. Spooky vibe, ominous music. Tee-hee.
Okay, normally I would go with common logic, but right now my gut is telling me that going through that portal is a lot more safer than standing here.
Green ponders questions of action. However, there is always a drawback, because if he goes, what will happen on the other side? And more importantly, who would exactly be there waiting for him?
Alright, you know what? Enough of this ominous crap. See you later.
Run if you can. It won't matter. We will meet soon enough.
Where am I? Come on. What happened to me? How long was I out? It's a bit of a long story, but first, get out of bed.
Mischievous giggle. See you soon. Backing away. Hiding. Like and subscribe.